just let me know via, because I'm trying to connect via my phone just to see if you're going on. But just let me know here when you already started, and then we just start. So guys, we're going to be starting off shortly. So we're going to play the video and then you start.
Creativity makes the world go round. Today and even throughout history, we continue to solve the problems around us through a creative process. Everything around us is a product of creative minds, thinking differently and thinking outside the box. This year, as we explore the creative economy as an opportunity, we invite you to listen in as we engage a group of young and exceptional creative thinkers who are turning their craft into paid opportunities. Join us live on our Standard Digital website and Facebook page on 23rd of April from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come ready to listen and learn on ways you can leverage the year of a creative economy. Creativity makes the world go round. Today and even throughout history, we continue to solve the problems around us through a creative process. Everything around us is a product of creative minds, thinking differently and thinking outside the box. This year, as we explore the creative economy as an opportunity, we invite you to listen in as we engage a group of young and exceptional creative thinkers who are turning their craft into paid opportunities. Join us live on our Standard Digital website and Facebook page on 23rd of April from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come ready to listen and learn on ways you can leverage the year of a creative economy.
Thank you, everybody, from where you're joining us around the country, around the world, on our Standard Digital pages and on our Standard website page. My name is Ian Dennis, and today I just want to welcome you all to our webinar around World Creativity and Innovation Day. And I have very interesting panelists who are going to help me just dissect this particular topic, and we're going to be having a very interesting time. So let me just start off by introducing myself. My name is Ian Dennis. I am a host of a business show called The Business Coach on KTN Home, and I also lead the innovation team right here at the Standard Group. And I'm positioned in one of our new studios here at Vibes FM, one of our new studios. So if you guys have not heard about Vibes, please go ahead and just check it. And so without further ado, I'm going to start off by introducing my guest, lovely guest and panelists that I do have here. And I'm going to be starting off by introducing Waithera Kabiru. Maybe Waithera, maybe you could just tell us a bit about yourself. And
Sure,
I
thanks
love
for
your
having me.
necklace. I love your necklace.
Thank you. I dressed up for this, working from home. I've been for the last year has been quite interesting. But I am head of Media Futures at EABL. Media Futures is an arm within marketing that looks at various ways we can connect our brands with consumers, not just using traditional media, but other connection points like digital, influencers, and what have you. I've been at EABL 3 years, and my favorite brand is Johnny Walker. Am I making you guys thirsty?
It's quite interesting. So we're going to engage after this. I'm seeing everybody smiling. Probably they need one after this. You'll send us one. We can go next to Rose Tongondu. So maybe Rose, you can get to introduce yourself.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
guys. Good, good. My name is Rose Tongondu. So the poster says makeup by Bella, but it's makeup by Rose. Yeah, so so Dennis, to make that change. So I'm the CEO
team
of
has had
Makeup
it.
by Rose. What? Sorry?
The team has had that.
Okay, okay. I'm the CEO of Makeup by Rose and Rubiella Beauty. I run makeup school in Kenya. Been a makeup artist for 13 years now. 14 years. I recently launched my own from Canada, Rubiella Beauty.
Sorry, Rose, we're losing you. I know Rose is on her way. We just had to pick her up. She's heading for a funeral. She's on her way to Kisumu, so she's just going to be joining us. I think internet problems, but we can go to you next, Jonas Tesfu. Hope I got the name right.
Yeah.
I hope I got my accent well.
No, no, you got it right, brother. You're all good. Thank you so
It's
much.
amazing. Yeah. So apart from that, I'm a maker. I'm a kick. I'm an innovator, and then also I love mentors and think
Ah,
about themselves. I actually do mentor women. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Rose. I think we just we lost you a bit, but cool. I think just the internet's going to reconnect. But we can go to you next, Jonas.
All right. Thank you, Gian.
Rose, you can mute, please. Yes, please mute, please. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Jonas.
All right. Thank you so much, Ian. So my name is Jonas. I'm co-founder and CEO of Panga Accelerator. We work with connecting African startups with competence capital network. Worked some with the creative industry. I'm also very passionate myself within the industry. So look forward to have this talk with all of you.
Interesting. Jonas, you're a bit modest. Jonas is a global citizen, traveled to over 80 countries, and is doing quite a lot of projects in Norway, in Kenya, and so many different things. My goodness, we're going to get into this after this. And last but not least, Savara. We had you everywhere. We're always listening to you. A member of Saudi Soul. Maybe Savara, you can get to introduce yourself.
Uh, hey everybody, my name is Savara. I'm a singer, songwriter, music producer. I'm an artist. I'm thankful to be here and I'm really eager to knowledge and to interact with you guys, especially when I see this panel. I see the quality of people of this panel. I'm just like, wow. So I'm excited to be on this and let's go. Thank you.
Interesting. So thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for having joined in. I know we have a
Yeah.
few guests who are just having some challenges joining in. Henry Disago will be joining us shortly, and also William Nanjero is the general manager at Soul Generation. But yeah, without further ado, we're just going to get into it. So we are in a very interesting time, whereby I think in our generation, I'm sure no one's here during the Spanish flu and all that stuff, facing the COVID pandemic. We got everybody by surprise. We don't know how it's going to end. So much debate around this, and all of us being entrepreneurs in our respective industries, there's an essence of resilience that you've had to have from when this pandemic was cleared. Let me just start up with you, Savara. I know Sauti Soul last year signed a record deal with Universal. You guys were set for a tour around the world, but all of us, you guys were set to also launch an album, but all of a sudden, all plans were disrupted. Just take me through the essence of resilience. I mean, that you guys had to embrace through this.
Uh, resilience is for what it is, even the word itself, like resilience is just resilience. And we have and we had to be resilient during that time because to launch an album, we had never thought of doing like or launching an album online. But due to COVID and restrictions uh, in traveling and movement, we had booked shows all over the world. We had like 25 shows in the States, 15 shows in Europe. Everything was like looking so glamorous ahead, but due to the restrictions, we had to innovate and look for a way in which we can contact our fans directly. And now with the internet, with the shift, the global shift in everything, in execution of work, people working from home, we had to look for a way in which we could launch our album because life must continue, you know. So, and music being creativity, or rather music being a very integral part of healing during this time, especially during the time when people are low. Music brings in the spirit, brings in happiness, and it has become like more of a listening season. So we had to launch the album, and to be sincere, it was challenging. It has been challenging, but also on the bright side, it's been inspiring. How? Because we've been able to innovate and look for ways in which we can go direct to fans in terms of merchandise, in terms of launching an album live online, you know, looking for ways in which we can monetize a live kind of stream. So I feel like when the when everything just comes back to normal, because it will, I'm sure it will, and I feel like it will, and it's soon. I feel when that comes back to normal, we would have opened up other ways in which we can make money now. It won't be like we must only go for shows live, but we will do live shows, and that those live shows can be live broadcasted. So the audience we've increased the number of people that we interact with globally, and so there's a positive side to this. So it's difficult. It's been difficult. It's been resilience and resilience and resilience, but through resilience, there's hope, and it breeds. We toughen. We toughen up.
Yeah.
We broaden our spectrum of thinking. So I feel like it's been very positive for us. Yeah.
Interesting. And maybe the next thematic topic, I got one of your members. Remember seeing a particular, what's it called, a particular webinar. He revealed the numbers behind this. You're going to get into it later on. But maybe next I can get to you, Waidera. I came across one of your interviews, and one of the interesting facts was that EABL changed their particular strategy in terms of how exactly you guys do your spend. And one of the interesting things is that I got to realize that is it 16% of your spend right now is going to what's it called, to influencers. Just take me through that particular thought process. And did the what's it called, did the pandemic influence that particular change in strategy on the corporate level?
Okay, yeah. So there's this saying I got from Think by Google, which says, solve for what matters today to be ready for what matters tomorrow. And that's a principle of how we've always worked, even before the pandemic. So before the pandemic, when we look at how do we connect with our consumers, because for our brands, it's about experiences. So obviously activations, working with entertainers was very critical for us. And then obviously ensuring awareness of our brands is pretty high. So when the pandemic hit, we looked at our touch points with consumers. So now we're no longer in the bar, we can't do events. I know guys were screaming at us to do Tusker Oktoberfest again. We couldn't do it. Um, and then and and then we looked at our connection points. We had started looking at how we can work with content creators closer. That was in 2019. We had started shifting a lot of our media to digital media. And we had, so we had kind of done the pre-work. So when the pandemic hit, it was very easy to shift. Another thing we had done, we had decided to do all our digital creative in-house. So previously we had worked with agencies, and we said, let's bring a team of young, fresh creatives to work in-house to support, we have a portfolio of about 40 brands to support us. So by the time the pandemic was hitting, we kind of had all these things in place. It was just about ramping up. So with the influencers, we went from working with a handful of influencers. We've worked obviously with Sauti Sol. We've worked with a few influencers to now ramping up. Right now, we have our portfolio has about our roster has about 76 influencers. But what we had to do is, before the pandemic, we had actually come back with a playbook. How do we even want to work with influencers? What is going to be the framework to guide us? And that gave us, comfort that we can now onboard a lot of influencers very quickly. So if you see, between July and October last year, we onboarded tons of influencers to help us with content creation, connecting with the consumers, providing experiences for consumers. And we find that these creatives, these content creators, can actually do a way better job than even some of our brands can. I mean, we have influencers who do stuff you're like, you should be the global brand manager for Tankari 10 because you do such an amazing job. I'm talking about Joy Kendi. She's just one of a really good content creator, and there are many more out there. So that's how we pivoted and shifted. And again, our agility came from the fact that we had already been preparing to do some of these things or to do things differently.
Interesting. Thanks so much, Waidera. And Rose, you're in an industry whereby it entails you, what's it called? It's very hands-on. You're doing a lot of makeup classes. You've built your brand. And just take me through some of the lessons around resilience that you've had to just maneuver through this particular period of the pandemic. How did Makeup by Rose get to pivot? Because I've been seeing you guys on social media. Recently, I saw you guys launched a van and launched new products. Just take me through that particular period of time and what exactly have had to change in terms of what's it called, the new situation that you're in. Rose, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I
Awesome.
can hear
Go
you.
ahead.
So now, sorry, my network is really bad. It keeps going on and off. So before Corona, things were perfect. Like business was good.
I think the internet.
Business like out like Juba, Sudan, everywhere. And then I was cheap. And then also our makeup training where we had been training more than 200 students per month. So now when Corona hit, everything just went south. Students were afraid of coming over. So, and remember, we had so many of them with balances and stuff like that. Uh, it was really tough, but then thank God I had products. So it taught me one thing: as an entrepreneur, you need to be flexible. You need to be diverse. Don't do only one thing. Because if we were only doing the makeup training, I would have shut down. Like last year, early last year. So I remember um, going down on my knees and asking God, like, what do I do? And then I had a talk with my husband, and then we were like, should we do what everyone else is doing? Letting like half their staff go. I have 9 girls, and I was like, how are we going to pay rent? How am I going to pay them? There's no money coming in because for like 6 months, there was no makeup training money coming in. And that's our biggest product. I had to cancel every masterclass, which we have a masterclass every month. And the masterclass was carrying like 50 people, for like 4 hours. Good money. So I sat down with my team. We decided to sit down with my team, and then we're like, okay, so this is the situation. Things are different. We need to work 10 times harder to sell the products to survive. So I gave them an option. It's either I let you go or you work for it. Because right now I cannot afford to work on your behalf. At times you have employees where they actually let you work and then you just pay them at the end of the month. So I was like, we had a sit down. I let them air their views. Some of them started crying because they were really scared. Actually, when Corona hit, that was their biggest fear. They thought they were going to get fired, like all of them. So, and it actually worked out really well. But my biggest lesson as an entrepreneur is to be diverse, especially being a creative, being a makeup artist, someone in the beauty industry. The biggest problem that we have is people doing only one thing. Like right now, makeup artists are going back to shags because they have nothing to do. There are no clients. You can't pay rent when you have two clients. Like for me, I remember being in Nairobi, I had two options: to work hard, I'm go back to Meru. There's one time I went back and I had to sell charcoal and all these funny jobs. But once like I always like this one thing that I tell my students: look at the situation and accept the situation and then figure out a solution. And that's what I did. And like I added more products. I started doing the permanent makeup, which I wasn't doing before. I brought back the skincare services that I knew how to do, but I wasn't doing. So they actually saved us. Others I would have closed down. So I would urge creatives to think outside the box and figure out, from whatever you're doing right now, what else can you add on? As a makeup artist, if you have knowledge of product, you can actually start selling kidogo kidogo. And then like right now, social media is really helping us. And like 100% of my business comes from social media. And you see creatives on social media, especially Instagram, doing nothing. It's just selfies, shoe game, hair game, and all that. Like, how much money does it bring you? I always ask that. If it doesn't make you money, it's useless. Yes. So that's
All
my
right.
biggest lesson, is to be diverse.
Interesting. And speaking about
Yeah.
diversity, let me go to you, Jonas. You're in the venture capital, what's it called, capital world, whereby for you, I know you invest in a lot of early startups, different SMEs across the different thematic areas. How exactly was it in terms of the pandemic? Did it stop money? Because I know most of the businesses in this particular point in time, they're crying out for money. How exactly was it for you as the man with the money?
Wow. I think from an investor perspective, COVID was like I mean, we saw that it was gonna come, in March or whatnot, but we didn't know to what extent or what it would become. But it basically, I think, scared a lot of people, a lot. And specifically, as you saw, like as countries started with lockdowns and travel restriction and all of that, it was like the stock market went like this. The conspiracy theories started happening. Suddenly it was like, what are we going to turn into? And it was just a lot of fear, man. So I think people acted a lot of fear, which means that they don't want to take decisions, they don't want to act, they want to wait and see what's going to happen. They want to understand, what's going to be the consequences of this. The other thing is this: if as an investor you have already invested money into businesses, right?
Yeah.
So suddenly these businesses, they're having the world turned upside down, a little bit like Rose was describing. So
Yeah.
now what happens is that you focus a lot on how do you support those businesses, right?
Mhm.
And then you have maybe startups you're working with through a program that are doing a fundraising journey. So they want to fundraise during COVID, and that's also like,
How
but
did that go?
they
Uh,
manage, man. They
You've
fucking
you've
killed it.
successfully fundraised within this particular period.
No, they succeeded. I'm not kidding you, brother. They did it in May last year.
Ah,
Imagine that. In
that's
May
quite
last
interesting.
year, they were doing a fundraising, and they actually they had to say no to some investors by the end because they closed the fundraising journey. But it required probably like 5 times as much hassle to
Mhm.
get there than it would have done in the normal context. Um, Also for me, Ian, I'm also like, yes, I invest and all that, but I'm also involved in a lot of startups. So I'm one of those people who like creating a lot of things. So I currently have a few startups, and basically what Rose described, you have to do a pivot. That's what's been happening in all whatever I've been involved in. Keeping it dynamic, understanding that you can't solve the COVID thingy; it's just there. And if you're in the perspective of complaining about it and being upset about it existing, it's not going to help you a bit. But if you kind of look at it like, okay, if I started my business today in a post-COVID world, how would I do it?
Mm.
Because then I'm not looking at COVID being an obstacle. I'm just looking at COVID being the context, right? And then I
Yeah.
can within the context. So suddenly then you end up being in a more productive
Mm.
mentality
Yeah.
and also thought process and also energy wise. So it gets you in a better, it takes you to a better destination, rather than sitting and being frustrated. Yeah.
Interesting. And speaking about pivot, and I just want to pivot it out because yesterday, just was it yesterday or last week, I came across an interesting webinar. Savara, your fellow band member, revealed most of the numbers that what's it called, Sauti Sol has managed to pivot with. Some of the interesting thing that he mentioned was that in terms of the album, I think once you couldn't launch it in terms of physically, you guys had to stream it what's it called, across the different digital platforms. So the interesting thing that I came across, or rather I got to learn, was that the target was 100 million streams, which is quite crazy. That's twice the population of Kenya. But one thing I got to learn is that you guys managed to surpass it. So just take me through this particular element of pivoting it, because you guys have launched 4 albums before. All of them were physical copies that you had to launch. But now here you are faced with the pandemic and now going across streams. How did you guys do it? How did you manage to what's it called, get all these particular numbers? Because it's crazy. Because I got to learn Susanna alone has 42 million streams.
Yeah, and now it has surpassed. Yeah, uh, I feel I. It's the notion of uh, being ready. It's the notion of making hay. Because and being able to being flexible. So I feel like once we discovered that we couldn't travel, because I can see you speaking. Once we discovered we couldn't travel, what happened is we were ready with the product and we were ready to get to the fans directly. It being a listening season, Susanna, Insecure songs are really emotional rather. And the fact that we were ready with the product is how we were able to get the numbers. So I feel like it's the notion of being ready and it's the notion of being able to be flexible. If we would have sulked, just like my colleague has said here, would have sulked and say like, "Whoa, we can't travel and everything." But we changed our mind around it. It was frustrating at first, but until we had a positive look into this pandemic and just being ready for the next season, we were ready with the numbers. And we activated fans thanks to social media, bro. It's a global village, brother. So when you say at the 100 million streams and we surpass it, it's double the population. It's it's having a global look into stuff now. Yeah, Sauti Sol is a global brand. We have fans in California, we have fans in Botswana. So even those numbers are less. When I even think about it, when I look at how much social media marketing we've done, we haven't done enough, you know. So I just feel like even this conversation is like I'm mirroring myself. I'm even listening to what everybody's saying, and I'm realizing like, whoa, Have I done enough marketing on social media for my music to get more streams so that I can earn more? So I just need to do more. I haven't even started. So, wow, this is a good revelation even to my business. Thank you.
Quite
Yeah.
interesting. I'm just reading here some of the comments. There's a gentleman called John Jerry saying, streaming live, love such business ideologies, and I've been waiting since. So kudos to everybody here. And then David Derrick is saying, good work. And then Eric Jufantia is saying, very serious. When someone says very serious, it means that you're literally making a lot of sense. But guys, you can just keep on sharing your feedback on our social media platforms at Standard Digital, Standard Kenya, I mean, on Facebook and also on Twitter and Standard Digital, and also on our website. It's also streaming live on our website. So, Waithera, one of the industry that you're in has been affected, the liquor business. I know bars have been closed, they're closed up to now. You guys can no longer do events. But something quite interesting and noble that you did for the creative industry last year was the 47 million reasons that you did in collaboration with the Standard Group. What exactly informed that, and how exactly did that particular come to life? Because I know last year wasanii walikuwa wanateseka, ni ukweli. Waithera, you gave people income. Just take me through that particular process.
Yeah, look, I mean, like I said earlier, our business is mainly in bar, and it's about providing experiences and accessibility to our products to our consumers. So two things we did differently. One, because you couldn't go in bar to purchase, we executed our e-commerce strategy, very fast and with precision. Actually, to be quite honest, this goes back again to, were we prepared beforehand? Yes, we had been looking at e-commerce. We knew it was still a very small channel, but we actually had a blueprint for it. In fact, the day before the first case was announced, we actually had a launch for Bailey's Delight. We were launching the product for the first time, and we're launching it via e-commerce. We had a partnership with Jumia On Demand. So I remember that event because we had the CEO of Jumia, the CEO of KBL, and that was the event, and it was on e-commerce. The very next day, the first case was announced, and we were ready. So we had already listed on e-commerce to enable our consumers to reach our products. Now we know we can't, not everybody has accessibility to e-commerce, but at least it was a channel for those who could consume products at home. And we also ended up launching our own e-commerce channel a couple of months ago called partycentral.co.ke. And this enabled our distributors to be able to sell to consumers directly. They had never been able to do that. Distributors sell to the bars and to the retail outlets. Now they actually had a direct link to consumers. So that was the first thing we did, or one of the things we did. The second thing we did, we looked for partnerships, media partnerships like the one you mentioned with Standard Group, 47 million reasons, where now we could now work with artists and, like Savara said, do things online, do concerts online. And I remember it was a series of concerts that we did over time, which number one enabled us to support the creative industry. I think Tusker alone has spent about 20 million shillings directly to artists over the last 6 to 9 months. And then secondly, now we could still provide those experiences to consumers. And it's something we'll continue doing, even as, this is the new normal. The COVID consumer is your future consumer. So the way we are operating now is, it's not like we're going to stop doing these things, By the time the country is fully open again, these are some of the things we'll say, look, this worked really well. Savara mentioned you can now reach a wider audience, a global audience. So we'll continue doing it in addition to other things.
Interesting. We have William Nanjero, who's the general manager at Soul Generation Records, joining us. Sorry, William, I think I made a mistake when I was just WhatsApping you. I wrote, instead of writing 10:45, I wrote for everybody, nilikuandike 11:45. But anyway, my apologies.
Yeah, I was
I think my
wondering.
phone made a mistake.
Yeah, I was wondering, did you do that thing for me where you put +1 hour so that I
I'm
show up?
wondering that you come late to class and then I blame you. You will chalewa.
Don't worry.
But William, let me just bring you into this particular conversation because we've been talking about how exactly different businesses have had to pivot across this particular pandemic and the essence of resilience that have come out of it. You are the helm of Soul Generations, which was launched just before in 2019, I believe. And then 2020, the pandemic comes into place. You already have 2 artists. I'm sure at the time you guys were you're due for a tour in Australia and around the world. Everything was looking up, but all of a sudden, Mungu ni nani?
Exactly.
Things changed. Just take me through some of the change in terms of the business model as it is right now. Since artists cannot perform,
Yeah.
you can't go to clubs right now, which is the main revenue source for the music industry. How exactly has it been for Soul Generation in terms of pivoting?
Sure. Awesome. Thanks. And
Um, William, can you hear me? William, you just hanged.
Ian, yourself, Jonas
All
also.
right.
And it's been quite interesting because, as you said, our key focus in our key business was high human interaction, where we used to focus on concerts, we used to focus on music, and our business model was very interactive. And we sort of had figured out the structure before COVID of what we needed to do based on the lessons that Salty Soul had built on 15 years of experience. And when the global pandemic came, we asked ourselves, what can we do to still re-engineer our business and enable that whatever is our brand promise, we are still offering it out there. And I'm sure Savara has mentioned this. One of the critical things that's important to us is in everything that we're doing, our key goal is to make sure that we're impacting and improving people's lives. And creatives in the music industry, we have a platform and we have ways in which we can continue to do that. So we came to the realization that the COVID environment, and this was not in the first 1 month, it was not in the first 2 months, but it was iterating and ideating around all of the ideas we had. But we came to the realization that COVID is not a business model, it's a transition. So we had to get out of that and just realize that we don't need to create a business model for COVID. We just need to transition as with any business environment. And even after COVID, 3 years from now, a new environment will come. And if you have the foundational elements of your business right and solid, you will survive that period. So we simply took our core product, which remains the same. It didn't change because of COVID, and just changed the way in which we offer our core product to our consumer. And we realized that digital became an important avenue for us. And we also then enabled the digital outlay. The second thing that we realized that was critical was, and this was through data is a powerful thing. And for us, data is not something that we say, we interact with it heavily. We realized that all the content that we put out there subconsciously was touching people in different ways. And we looked at the negative content, the content that we're putting out there that's touching people negatively, and we asked ourselves, how can we improve in that area? Secondly, the one that is touching people positively, how can we create avenues in which we then can accelerate this content to demographic, to our fans and to our partners? And one of the ways we found was useful for us was Soul Family, that we then piloted. We put it out, and it was very overwhelming. And we realized the key thing that Soul Family really helped, not just us, but anyone who interacted with Soul Family, is it was the realness and the reality of opening up our world to them, and then just showing everyone that it's okay to be in a pandemic. You just have to be yourself, put in strategies that will get you through that pandemic, and also be deliberate about improving yourself and improving your lives. And then finally, we also realized that we had a big responsibility to other partners around us, including Waithera, who is a key partner for us, because for them also, they were looking for ways in which that they can interact with their demographic, their customers, and just co-creating a model in which our businesses can work together to still, Ian, you mentioned it, to still speak to their customers, put their message out there, build communication models that still speak to their brand values in a way in which they don't lose that was critical. And together with EABL and other institutions, we have put a structure out there that still drives our communication model and our objectives out there in the market without the high human interaction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ninjaro. Something quite interesting. You've said that COVID is not a business model; it's just a transition. So for
Yeah.
Jonas, which is that's literally tweetable. For Jonas, in terms of what's it called? In terms of the world of venture capitalist, how exactly has it been right now? what exactly some of, as the criteria changed in terms of how exactly you're going about funding? Has what's it called? Considerations of several industries changed? Just take me through some of the investment that you